Hello, ma'am. Could
Hello.
you please give a brief introduction about yourself?
Sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Ishita Maheshwari. I'm someone who's been a founder thrice in the last 8 to 10 years now, having worked very, very closely with the startup ecosystem. Three of my startups, one of them was in the hospitality space. The second was working very closely with women founders on their entire growth journey. So, mentorships, partnerships, business growth, connecting them to corporates, connecting them to angel investors. This was called Ncubate.
Okay.
And then I started the Ncubate Angel Network, realizing that if we have women in the startup ecosystem as founders, then why not get more women and individuals into the angel investing ecosystem?
Mm-hmm.
Built that very closely for about 3 years. For the last 14 months, I've been working in understanding tier two, tier three India better because I've been in Bangalore all my life.
Okay.
And I realized that the true spirit of entrepreneurship is across India. So I've traveled across India to tier two, tier three cities, everywhere from Dehradun to Ropar in Punjab to Hubli in North Karnataka to understand the essence of startups, closely spoken to investors, incubation centers over there. And I currently work as a business growth strategist where I support startups on their entire business growth and go to market, but also work with venture capital portfolio companies. That means that companies that they have invested
Okay.
in seeing if I can help them in business growth, connect them to corporates, or help corporates connect to startups. So my strength lies in just seeing who can work with whom to ensure business growth.
So, what's the most exciting startup you have mentored recently?
Oh, difficult to say. I've not been taking up too many projects, but one
Okay.
of the exciting projects I'm currently working on is helping the Geo IPL bring on board startups
Okay.
to showcase their products when they're telecasting the IPL on Geo Cinema. So, what happened is Jio took over the telecast rights
Right.
of IPL last year and made it free for everybody to watch. And then this year I met their team in Jan,
Okay.
where they wanted to get more brands that could showcase their products while it was being telecasted on the app. The idea was that they started speaking to a lot of advertising agencies who could then speak to their customers.
Mm-hmm.
But coming from the startup ecosystem, I recommended that we start speaking to startups across India. We lower the budgets that would be there. So currently they have very startup friendly budgets that go in single digit lakhs to tens of lakhs instead of going on tens to hundreds of crores. So that is the difference that I have made. And I'm currently working with them on introducing VC portfolio companies that are in the consumer D2C space, saying that if you would like to showcase your products during the Geo IPL, these are the things that you can do, but help them with a strategy. So if you are a product, say, if you are a company, there is a company based in Kerala and they're doing this offline and they want to now take their products online. I told them, hey, why don't you look at advertising to all viewers in Kerala in Malayalam? Because the IPL is also in 12 different languages.
Yeah.
So while founders know that these are some of the things they want to look at as goals in this year, and Geo Cinemas is, looking at getting brands on board, I become the bridge where I actually align the placement in IPL into some of their growth goals for the year.
Okay. And ma'am, how did you end up choosing this career? Like, did you have a passion for this before, like, completing your studies?
Not really. So, I did my PU in science,
Okay.
and then I studied psychology, English literature, and media studies in degree.
Okay.
But coincidentally, I always had the curiosity to do something new. And one of my internships led me to being the third employee of a startup.
Okay.
Ended up setting up their Bangalore office for a Mumbai based company. while I was supposed to do business development for them. I ended up doing everything from accounts to business development to on ground activities. And I realized that I was a founder with a salary, which is a huge privilege. So I think it was a coincidence. However, when I was in college is when Flipkart and a lot of startups were coming up.
Okay.
So while I didn't, for sure know that I wanted to be a founder or what sectors I would want to be a part of, I knew that I wanted to start something of my own. So after 3 years of working at the startup, I left to start my first company.
Okay. And according to you, what do you think are the booming industries in the future in the startup field?
Booming industries, there are various sectors, I would say. I do know the Indian market has been doing very well in our fintech space.
Mhm.
That is something that I've realized we are experts at.
Okay.
UPI has really, that boom has worked well for us. COVID was an opportunity that also worked well for us because of that. I also understand from a lot of stakeholders that I work with that SaaS is another space, which is software as a service.
Yeah.
Again, building in India for the world. Within India, agri is something that is an opportunity. Environment is something the corporates, the government, VCs are very closely looking at. So I would say there isn't a particular sector for the future. It is more of startups being looked at as businesses. So if you can be innovative and if you can ensure you're making money through it, then you are in it, irrespective of if you're a consumer, D2C, sustainability, any of these.
Mama, what's your opinion on AI? So, do you feel that after more industries into AI, do you feel that the creativity and innovation of startups have gone down?
Not really. Also, not being a tech person myself, I don't I understand AI from another side of the table. I would look at AI as an empowering tool, right? I would not look at it as a creator, right? As a category or an industry creator. The idea is that just like technology came in, AI is a version, is a part of technology that can enhance what you're trying to build, that can take us a certain distance, even jobs for that matter, right? Very often everyone's like, okay, are we going to lose jobs because of that? Should we be doing that? Not really. I feel like AI might be the survival of the fittest mode, where things that are redundant will be taken care of through AI, but things that have innovation, eventually artificial intelligence needs to come from real human intelligence, right? And that is something that cannot be replaced. So any startup, any industry that's doing well, they can use AI to enhance what they're planning to do, but AI will not be able to completely build what you're planning to.
Okay. Ma'am, and to all those students or people, who have an idea and who wanna put their ideas up front or who wanna take it to the next stage of execution. Especially students, I've seen they're a bit hesitant about taking it to the execution stage. So, what is your advice that you want to give to them? Like, how do they go to the next stage?
So I believe if you have an idea and you're a student, this is one of the best times to go out there and make a mistake, right?
Yeah.
Go out there, talk about it. You are in a campus with thousands of students. You're in a class with about 100 others that are there. Talk about your idea, understand, get feedback. That way, what happens is you will be able to understand the viability of it, right? At this stage, you rather have your own classmates laugh at you than going out into the industry and then hearing of gaps. The second thing is that if you are fearful and you don't take your idea to the next level, there's only one person that's going to lose out, which is you.
What do you think are the steps they should, like really follow to execute the ideas they have?
To move from an
Yeah.
idea into a thing.
Yeah, right.
So the first step would be putting down your idea on paper, which means exactly what you are thinking of building. The second step, I very strongly believe, is putting down why you should not be building that idea.
Okay.
Which means that you should not be building it because it isn't a viable idea. There is a lot of competition out there. You are personally not inclined, and maybe you would choose to take up a job instead of doing this after college, right? So understand, it's very important for an individual to understand that is this an idea, or are they ready to take it to the next step? How do you do that? By understanding market viability. How do you understand market viability? Look at ideas that are similar to yours. Go on to Google, search for the idea that you have thought of, right? This could be sustainable clothing, right? Just put sustainable clothing, look at the top 10, 15, 20 answers that come up, go into each of these links, check what's there, do your market study of that, understand if your idea is truly unique, or is it unique in the bubble that you are in, which is your friends and family.
Okay.
Right? If you feel it is unique, then go ahead and go to the second circle, which is slightly unknown people. Attend, if you're in Bangalore or any of the other cities, attend certain events. Talk to people about it. On the other hand, if it is a tech heavy or a tech based one, use certain tools, certain low code or no code tools to build that, and then go to customers. Understand, is this something of value to them?
Okay.
Do your market study. If it is of value to them, understand if they will pay for it or not. Because we also understand that when something is for free, everybody says yes. Right? You need to understand, will they pay for it or not? Try and get a couple of customers on board. In the meantime, continuously keep looking for companies in a similar space. Are they successful? Are they making certain mistakes? Are they getting funded? Who are the VCs that are funding them? Are they getting grants? So I believe that when you're taking an idea into execution, there are two very strong paths you have to work on parallelly. One is building your idea. The second is very strong market awareness of that idea, of that sector, and of other startups in that field.
Yeah, and what are some common mistakes or pitfalls that entrepreneurs make while pitching to a venture capitalist?
What are some of the common ones? One is not being completely aware of the VCs that you are pitching to. I think it's very important to know who you are pitching to, what their focus is, would they even want to invest in you or not, right? Depends on the stage of the VC that is there.
Okay.
Another thing is very often entrepreneurs end up talking about the problem, but not about the solution, or very often end up talking about their solution, but maybe a problem isn't that strong or doesn't exist. So I think it's critical to understand that you need to share your journey with the VC as to why you have chosen to create this. Another thing that founders often miss out is talking about their competition. Because I believe that when you talk about your competition, there are two things that come into it. One, yes, you talk about competition means there are other companies like you. But the fact that there are other companies like you means that there is a market for it.
Right.
So that is another thing. They also sometimes miss out on data. Data is something that's very important because while you might have a very compelling story as to why you are building something, at the end of the day, numbers are going to give me, viability as to why, a justification as to should I be investing in you or not, right? Are there other startups? Is there a government policy that has come out? Has the market grown in that particular sector? So this could be preferably a combination of primary and secondary data that you put across. which means that primary data is certain research, certain user surveys that you've done, and secondary data is data available on Traction or any of the other websites that are there. They also miss out on talking about their traction that is there, right? The customers they've got on board, the responses they've got on board, the people that they have been interacting with, and their achievements, which
Right.
could be awards, which could be grants, which could be certifications, which could be uh, tentative patents that are there, any of these things. So that's something when I'm speaking to founders and helping them get pitch ready, I tell them that your opening statement should be about your achievements
Mm-hmm.
and about the fact that yes, this is an investable business because this is some data, this is the market, this is our achievement, and then share your idea.
Okay.
Because as a VC, the minute I know that you have already started making money or you have some kind of traction, then I'm okay to listen to your idea. Otherwise, what happens very often is you're listening to a pitch for about, say, 10 minutes, but the first 8 minutes I'm sitting there and wondering that, is this even going to make me money? So you rather answer that for me in the first 2 minutes.
Okay, so you got to prove your point that this is good in the market. Okay. What are some key differences between investing in early stage startups versus later stage companies? And how does this approach vary?
Some of the key differences, I think the risk factor,
Okay. In the
right?
early stage ones are
Yes,
more.
at early stage, you are always looking at, of course, the idea, but you're looking at the founders, the founding team a lot more, right? Will this person be able to execute the idea or not?
Okay. So
So
you
my, sorry.
judge them on the basis of the person, like if they're capable of, like executing and taking the business forward. That's what you mean?
Yeah, so it is both things, right? It is the personality
Okay.
of the founder. It is the background.
Right.
It could, and when I say background, it could be their knowledge about that sector or subject. It could be that they've been with certain institutes or certain companies and worked in that space before. And why will they make this idea work rather than any other founder, right? So your idea can be amazing, but at an early stage, I'm going to be placing my bet on the founder.
Mm-hmm.
On the other end, at a growth to late stage, what happens is you have got in certain traction, you've got your angel investors, you've maybe got certain micro VCs on board. So then I'm just betting on your numbers that are there and the current sentiment of the sector in addition to my thesis that are there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I am then banking on the understanding of what investors have already done and of the business that you have already built.
Okay.
So my risk factor doesn't come from will you be able to make it? You have already started making it. But now my risk factor comes in that as a business, will you all be able to take it? Because you've taken it from 0 to 1, but will you be able to take it from 1 to 10 to 100?
Right. Yeah. And what about the later stage companies, like which have an existence and have been working for like 3-4 years?
So that's where my bet would come, where I would look at what is the kind of business that they have and can they grow this or not.
Okay.
So from it will, of course, I will still look at the founding team,
Mhm.
but I will look at the founding team and the business. At an
Okay.
early stage, it is the
Just
founding team with an idea that I'm. So that seesaw is a little
Okay.
balanced.
So, do you have any personal role models or strict formula you listen to, or like abide while making an investment, or like giving your advice?
So I personally don't invest. I have not invested in any companies as yet. But when I take startups to certain VCs or when I mentor startups, I definitely look at the fact that they are founders that would truly look at solving something. They're founders because they want to be founders and they could still be going out there and getting a job. They're solving a relevant problem. So I talk to them about their process of building a company. Why have they built it? what are the challenges, and when I connect them to the right VCs to gain investment, my job is very simple. What I do is I understand the founders, the kind of VCs they would like to work with closely. I understand VCs
Okay.
to know, what are the sector focuses that they have, what are the companies they've already invested in,
Mm-hmm.
and then I do the matchmaking. But one of the things that I definitely look at is companies that have some kind of traction, or at least founders that have some kind of background in this space. Because that formula helps me understand that even if as a founder you're building in, say, the finance space,
Okay.
right? And you have a particular idea, and say 6, 8 months, a year later, you realize this particular idea isn't working, but I want to pivot it. Because of your knowledge, you will be able to pivot it and still build a successful business.
So what's the most unusual pitch you have ever received?
I can't remember one, but I know that the most impactful pitches are, especially if you have a physical product or something, is when founders bring them.
Right.
That is something that I strongly recommend, and those are the highest recall value that I look at.
What's your favorite thing working with startups?
The energy.
Okay.
There is some kind of energy and newness, and it's like walking into college. I know you all walk into college every day, so it's a different feeling, but it's exactly how I felt walking into college today, right?
Okay.
That sigh of happiness, not of relief, but you're just like the fact that they've thought of this and they're so passionate about it. And it helps me feel like I'm a founder again and again and again.
So what's your go-to place in Bangalore?
Spending a lot of time at home these days. And last year I spent a lot of time across India to understand the startup ecosystem. But I would say one of my go-to places to eat is Truffles. It's
Okay.
that place that has stayed with me since college, since we would have to share a burger, to now when I can afford one.
And what's something that your degree hasn't taught you and you've learned in real life? Like that one major thing in your life?
Talking to people and networking, just building strong relationships.
Okay.
Is
How do one
some-
go about networking? What's your advice to the students?
I think you should just spend more time outside with other founders, with other people building similar things to you.
Okay.
Talk to them, stay connected with them. I look at LinkedIn as a power tool. I've been using LinkedIn for 10 years now. And all my startups, most of the business has come because of LinkedIn.
Okay.
I don't look at networking only as meeting people and just quickly having a conversation, but actually carrying on that conversation by keeping them in mind, meeting them regularly. If I see something relevant, I share it with them. So it's not only about the first step of networking, but building a strong relationship, which I feel even today students don't realize that if you are at a pitch event or even your own classmates, keep in touch with them, because after you all graduate this year or next year, you all are all going to be in different parts of the country or world. And 5 years later, you all will realize, oh, wow, he or she is at that startup and we could do something together. Or so and so is at this corporate and you would want advice from them. So people and relationships are a very strong capital that you can otherwise not get.
Okay. And from the past decade, how do you feel Christ has changed after you walking in today?
The greenery has decreased, definitely.
Okay.
I feel like they have made the most of all the space available. I didn't know there was a gate 5 that even existed because we had one gate, either you're in or you're not. So it has definitely changed. I've seen most buildings being built in front of me. But keeping the emotional factor aside, it's beautiful to see how much we have grown as an institution, the kind of facilities, the kind of programs that are there. We just went to the innovation
Crisis incubation center.
incubation center, just seeing that there is space over there, right? A decade ago, something like entrepreneurship, not only in Christ, but even in our country, wasn't something that was highly accessible.
Mm.
Today, it felt really nice to sit over there, and I wondered that what if I was still a student, I would have a place to go and build my startup. So I feel like that is something that is that I'm very happy to see. We didn't have too many student entrepreneurship clubs that were there. So looking at Udan and some of the other ones that you all have built also gives me more hope that we'll have even more Christites out there.
So, what's the one word you would want to describe yourself as?
I would have liked somebody else to answer this for me.
Do you want to
but,
answer, George?
Passionate.
I see
Okay.
a lot of energy in you, ma'am. Like a lot of energy. Yeah, I felt good talking to you yesterday. Like after the webinar,
Yeah.
it was nice.
So let's say energy is something then.
Yeah.
Energy and one word that means a lot to me is happiness and health. These are two things that I strongly focus on, and I would actually really like students to understand this one aspect, right, which is the health aspect.
Okay.
Very often, be it as students, as professionals, as founders, we miss out on that. One of the reasons I moved out of my last startup was that in 8 years, I was a founder thrice, which meant that for almost 8 years, you don't have a vacation. You're working 7 days a week. You are constantly thinking of what to do and how to succeed. And you've not been taking care of yourself. Depression, burnouts, anxiety. Great words that are trending, but not a place you would want to go, which means that you need to start thinking of your fitness and health as a priority. It has to be as important as eating and breathing. And I've realized that health and happiness are two things that are very important to me.
Okay. As you mentioned, was there a phase in your life where you were like completely low, and how did you come back, like push yourself again to where you were?
I've not fortunately reached the lowest lows because I realized, right? I realized certain mood changes, I realized certain health changes that were there. I've always been fit. I've always been someone who's enjoyed running, enjoyed traveling. So the minute I realized that constantly I was not being able to do that, which meant that that had started affecting my health. And when I say health, it had started affecting both my physical and mental health. I realized I needed to step back. And that's when I moved out of my previous company. I chose to, of course, I continued working on projects and learning certain things, but I chose to make sure that working out in some form or the other became mandatory for me. The kind of food that I ate, the way I looked at food has changed. I love eating, but now I look at quantity control. I look at certain other things. I don't believe in diets.
Okay.
I believe in this being a constant lifestyle change. And I feel as human beings, it is important for us to not look at a drastic change before we come up, but to actually make this a part of your routine. Like today, some of your team members would also say, every time we would take the lift, I would say, no, it's okay. Let's just
Take the
walk
stairs.
up, right? There was maza lying there. I still chose coffee without sugar. There were certain other food items. I chose quantity control. That is something that is my investment in myself for the future. Another thing that has always helped me the minute things went on a slight low is my inner circle of people. And this is not my friends from, say, school, college, my childhood friends, or my family, but people in the industry who have known me.
Okay.
So while I believe that, yes, you need to have a personal and professional distinction, there are certain people in your professional life that will understand you and become friends.
Mm.
And they will become your support system because they understand who you truly are. And at some of your lowest times, they will remind you of your achievements or tell you that it's okay to have a bad day today, Shata, go have that corner house ice cream. Tomorrow, when you wake up, make sure we finish these things or make sure you have some of the small wins.
Okay.
So, one is focusing on health. Second is what has helped me stay sane, if I may say, is my immediate support system.
Mm. What do you want to say to the future entrepreneurs today?
Guys, take risks, go out there, build what you are thinking of. You might as well, go out there and take the risk right now if resources allow you. That's something that I say is very important. When I say resources allow you, if you have the financial freedom and the family backing to do it, if you have responsibilities, please first ensure you cover some of those responsibilities, then dive in. But please go out there, just take risks, build your startup as early as possible so that if you're failing as soon as possible. Uh, Understand the industry that you're looking at building in. Reach out. Something that I very strongly believe in is ask shamelessly and give openly. So whenever I want something, I reach out to my network very openly and ask them. And anytime someone comes to me, if it is in my capacity, I try and help.
Ma'am, and how would you like to conclude it?
The journey of entrepreneurship is lonely, but is very fulfilling. And if you find the right people around, then it's definitely worth it. Thank you so much for having me here, spending time here with me. And it's so nice to see Christ Tides doing these things. I'm very proud.